Good morning, everybody. Monday morning. How are you? How are you? Good to see you. It's me, Mitch. I survived. Survived my day off. Good to be here. I see Kiltsy's just wrapping up. They had their drawing already, and Rick. God. Rick was the winner. Holy cow. Rick's here this morning already. He says day off. Yeah, I took a day off. I did, Rick, and congratulations on you winning. So we'll let Kiltsy finish out. I will welcome you to Morning Coffee with Mitch, and as usual, I will ask you with reverence and respect to drink it. Drink it if you got it. And I got it today with a couple drops of iodine, which I, for some reason, for 3 or 4 days, did not put in my coffee. No particular reason, just forgot. I could listen to that music all day, but I think it would probably be annoying. Says up there, Rick won a t-shirt. Rick finally won a t-shirt. Rick, never seen you in a t-shirt, have I? I don't think I have. You're gonna have to wear a t-shirt on Saturday morning now. Anyway, that was congratulations in duck, in case you don't speak duck yet. I'm still watching. Kiltsy is officially done, and now we'll wait for the rest of the class to get here. I hope you all had a nice weekend. We had a nice little live stream yesterday morning. It was always a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun. Here they come. Here they come. I can hear the stampede down the hallway. Yeah, wishful thinking. Wishful thinking, something we all are guilty of and tend to do more than we should, maybe. That's kind of like a tangent of believing what you want to believe. Bias. They call that bias. Does that ever happen? I'm confused. I'm confused this morning. This is just an observation. Just an observation. And really nothing new, because the more carnivore YouTube influencers or keto or health or diet in general that I seem to watch, the more confused I get. Here I thought, a couple of years ago, that after 75 years at the time, that was 3 years ago, 75 years of trying to figure it out, of listening to everything, of reading, of studying all aspects of anything that might have an effect on what we should or shouldn't eat. After studying the biochemistry of it all, after studying the evolutionary aspects of it, the history of it, factoring, more importantly than anything else, common sense into it, I was convinced that it was really simple. It was just so simple. I've been keto and low carb all my life and been able to stay pretty healthy. Didn't have a lot of diseases, never got diabetes. I had a lot of ailments caused by what evidently turned out to be plant poisoning and sugar, excess sugar. But by and large, when I got off of that stuff, when I just ditched the plants, ditched the sugar, gave up the last of the brainwashing that I'd had, that I can't live without healthy salads or broccoli or Brussels sprouts or spinach. That's when the magic happened. So I had a eureka moment. Eureka, I said. I found the Holy Grail, the fountain of youth, or any other synonym for the secret of life. It's carnivore. Don't eat a lot. Eat 1 or 2 meals a day tops. Fast for at least 18 hours a day, if not more. And eat meat and other animal products. If you're not a carb addict, which I discovered I was, if you want to have a little broccoli now and then or some other low glycemic carb, have at it. Have at it. I didn't drink alcohol, and I figured it out. And it worked, and it worked great for me. 75 years it took to figure it out. I can't even begin to recount what I went through in those 7. There is a point to what I'm saying. I'm going somewhere with this, so stick with me. 75 years it took me to figure it out, find the answer, and then in 3 years since, I pretty well had enough of my own N of 1 study that said to me, I don't see any reason why I need to change a thing, as long as I could keep my addictions in check. It's becoming more and more of an effort to actually stick to those convictions, because every time I turn on YouTube and I watch a supposedly highly respected influencer, they tell me basically everything that I'm doing that's working for me shouldn't be working, and I need to do something else. And I'm talking about influencers, and I don't want to trash anybody, because I don't do that. I don't want to, although I admire Bart K., I don't want to become Bart K. I don't want the thrust of my channel to be, how do I say this without slandering somebody? Nothing but an ego boost for my overblown opinion of myself, which I don't think I have. And it was really all hammered home to me last night when I watched the replay of Bart K's last live stream. I hadn't watched him in a long time. And in that live stream, he spent the entire live stream doing nothing but trashing Nick Norwich, Dave Feldman, Adrian Sotomoto, all the guys that have just done pretty much the first, what I think is a legitimate study, not funded by Big Pharma or Big Food and not propaganda, and he trashed the hell out of it. And I watched that for about 15 minutes, and I was disgusted. Could he be right? Maybe. But I was disgusted. I turned them off, unsubscribed, and that's a shame because I was a guest on his live stream years ago, and I've always had a lot of respect for him, and I think he's a very knowledgeable man, but God. So I keep hearing more and more of these things. Then this morning, and this is not me finding fault with him, but I'm listening to my brother, my good friend, Kiltz, who's experimenting wildly. And I have a lot of respect for Kiltzy, and I say, well Kiltzy, why? What can you possibly learn from completely changing horses midstream? What can you learn? How are you going to know if it indeed does any good until 5 years from now when you get another CAC score and find out if your coronary artery calcium has not progressed? You can't know in a month. You can't know in a year. It took 3 years for your score to go up a couple hundred points. And it just confused me. It confused me. I'm confused. For me, a radical change in my diet, radical change, was to try adding in a little ice cream. I did that. That's a radical change, and that was done as a, I guess because I still have a little sugar addiction, or a little addiction for treats, which I finally was able to live without and be happy. I found out within a week of adding in that ice cream that I didn't find out whether it would increase my atherosclerosis. I didn't find out that it did any physiological damage that I could measure and know for sure that I should do this or I shouldn't do this. But everything started to hurt. Again, my back hurt, my knees hurt, my joints hurt. It caused inflammation. Dairy and me don't get along. So I learned how to quit the dairy, and I'm back to eating my burger patties and my steak, my eggs, and my bacon, which makes me feel good. I've always eaten fish once a week, and I'm going to continue to do so. I've eaten chicken once or twice a week in the form of chicken thighs, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'm not, even though everybody's telling me, go on a sardine fast, go on a dry fast, go on a 7-day fast, do this, change. Every politician's case, change. We need change. And I say to myself, I say, Mitch, what? I say, Mitch, you're doing great. You don't want for anything. You have no cravings. You don't feel bitter and deprived. You spent 75 years learning. You came to a conclusion. It works. Oh, yeah, I know you had that pesky little stroke. But you're pretty well convinced. You're pretty well convinced that that wasn't caused by your lifestyle. More than likely caused by your head injury, the surgery, and if that wasn't the case, it was 75 years of eating poisonous crap. But why? You know, I'm a normal human being. I keep listening to all this stuff, and they put little bugs and little ideas in my ear. Wow, Mitch, you know, your ApoB100 or your Apo or all of that. And I know, because I've already tried to find out that LDL cholesterol is not the cause. There's no proof. And this morning I'm watching Kilts and I see people ask him questions. And the questions are, can you point me to any studies that I can show everybody else to prove this, that, or the other thing? And I learned a long time ago and had already come to terms and become confident with the fact that all of these studies are bullshit, meaningless, propagandized marketing materials. The opinions are just that, opinions. And even if you find a study that you think is legitimate, there's probably something wrong with it because these studies can't be done. They can't be done. So I've finally learned to discount all of this crap. And there's a couple of meta-analyses I rely on that seem to be well done, but we don't know. And who the hell wants to read through a thing this thick, every bit of the fine print to find on page 600 and something else that there's one sentence that they threw in there as a disclaimer because the rest of their study was bullshit. So I don't want to rely on these studies. Blood tests, they have to be interpreted. And interpreting something leaves it open to everybody having a different opinion. And interpretation is not a fact. People interpret the Constitution every day and look at the mess we're in this country. So 75 years of figuring it out, 3 years of actually saying, I finally found it. It's working great. I'm happy. I don't run around hungry all the time. I have food freedom. I lost my weight. My health is good. Yeah, I had a stroke, but everybody can. A lot of people are getting strokes because of their vaccinations. But the medical community is not blaming them. It's blaming red meat. So I finally got a conviction in my mind. I finally got to the point where I said, Mitch, you found the Holy Grail, the fountain of youth. It took you a whole lifetime. You're now benefiting from it. And every day I turn on YouTube and everything I see just causes me doubt. And that doubt only gets me in trouble, only gets me to want to maybe try a different supplement, maybe want to try it. When in reality, I should be going by my basic tenets of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what do I do? What do I do? I'm not going to come on here and just trash everybody else. They might be right, but there's no absolute. So I have to revert to common sense. Now, and then I say, how does that affect my efforts here on YouTube? How does it affect my YouTube channel? People ask me questions. And the problem is that the more of this stuff that every one of us watches, the more we begin to doubt what we're doing, and you all start going through the same thing that I do, and you start asking questions like I saw littered all over the chat in Kiltz's stream this morning. I think to myself, well, maybe the best thing for me to do is drop out, just disappear for my own health, because I'm human. I worry. I have fears like everybody else, and I'm just having too much noise thrown at me from everywhere I turn. Maybe I need to just stop watching any other carnivore influencer from now on. What am I going to talk about with you guys? So I'm confused. I haven't changed anything. My diet is still exactly the same. I think I'm going to start staying out of some of these new conversations that keep coming up. Leave that to the other guys. As far as you're concerned, you're intelligent grown-ups. You can investigate anything that you'd like. You can consider making changes. If you're younger, you got more time for those changes to actually manifest themselves, to see. The problem with all of these things is there's no immediate reaction to almost anything. The reaction comes slowly over decades. The plaque builds slowly over decades. Nothing you can do in the next month, no matter what you ate, is going to appreciably increase your atherosclerosis in that month. It doesn't work that way. How do you know? You have no way of finding out. We're a society of instant gratification. We wear meters now so we can see. And I think they have their place, but, we have to know instantly the results of our actions. And unfortunately, these actions, when it comes to diet and its overall lifetime effects on your health, don't show up instantly. And then there's always the margin of error of whatever device or test is measuring it. Kiltsy, for example, his CAC score, it could have gone down. They call that margin of error. So how do you know? Before you make all these life changes, give up beef completely as an experiment. Start eating nothing but fish. How do you know that what you were doing really didn't bring your CAC score down a little bit, and it's just a stupid test that was wrong? You can't know. So I made the decision for myself, and there is a purpose and a point to this whole diatribe this morning. The decision that I made is I'm not changing anymore. My course is set for the rest of my life. I have to now, at this point, say, I've done the research. I've come to the conclusions. It's time for me to have my personal conviction. But as a curious person, everything I hear just kind of makes me think again, well, maybe. And that kind of doubt will do me more harm than good, than just being happy and proud that, yeah, I found the answer. And that's what I'm going to continue to espouse. I'm going to continue to say, eat meat. I'm going to continue to avoid plants. I'm going to continue to avoid sugar because of my addiction and no other reason. If you're not a sugar addict, Carbohydrates will not kill you in moderation. I really, truly believe that. If you want to eat vegetables, there are vegetables lower in oxalates. Oh, Bart K trashed Sally Norton as well last night and trashed the whole oxalate thing. How do you know? How do you know? Who knows? Well, the reality of it is none of us do. We all only have opinions. And I think we'd be better off if more of the so-called YouTube geniuses out there would actually use that "this is just my opinion" disclaimer every time they open their mouths, because they just, I don't think, realize the harm that they're doing. Because there may be other people who set their courses and are doing well on it. People who've spent years trying to figure it out. Not just what works according to all the geniuses, but what works according to their own satisfaction. Because that's the most important indicator of all. For me, I know that I'm happy doing this, that I don't feel deprived, that I don't envy anybody that's eating shit. I just am happy. Well, that is the most important indicator at all. And if you're at a point in your journey where you just love this and you're not mourning the lack of variety every day, and you're happy with just eating burger patties and bacon and eggs or something like that, and that makes you happy, your body is sending you the loudest message it can ever send you. And to change your course because of any noise would be the height of stupidity. I needed to get that off my chest because it just built over me over the weekend. And I watched a lot of carnivore stuff over the weekend. And if I had hair, I'd want to be tearing my hair out. I'd want to scream. Keep it simple. That's the thing. Keep it simple. This has gotten so complicated. And everybody is not a cellular biologist, a biochemist. Is not an paleoanthropologist. Can't consider all that stuff. All you have to do, and this Nick Norwich is a smart young kid, but all you have to do is listen to him for a half an hour, and your brain will start to smoke. If you're not a Harvard-educated doctor and PhD, well, 99.999% of us are not. We're just animals with urges. We just want to eat. We want to be healthy. Keep it simple for us. Tell us what to do. I always want people to know why. Maybe that's a mistake. That just confuses people. So if I've just become one of 1,000 people in the noise that is diet advice out there, and I get 100 people to listen to me because they say, this guy sounds like he knows what he's doing, maybe that's the best I'll ever be able to do. Maybe, even if I forget about anything that YouTube demands that I do in order for them to even put my message out there, to play by their rules. I didn't mean to make this a half-hour rant this morning, but I think it's important. And the main point that I'm trying to make after half an hour of wandering over the place is have a little faith in your own convictions and your own conclusions if you've been at it a while. And don't be so quick to change horses midstream, because that's what is happening to everybody. And you can tell it's happening to everybody by the questions that they ask in all of these live streams. And you can tell by the questions, oh, this guy's been watching Bart Kay. This guy's been watching Anthony Chafee. It shows you exactly who they're listening to. And not that you shouldn't listen to them, but how many times can you say plants are trying to kill you? How many times can you say excess carbohydrates causes diabetes? How many different ways do you have to look at that? And how many changes do you need to make in your diet after you finally figured out maybe I shouldn't eat sugar? Keep it simple, my friends. Keep it simple. Now, that being said, I got to say good morning to some people because it is Monday morning and I'm actually, believe it or not, even though I'm confused, I'm not confused anymore. I wanted to let you know what was going on in my head for the past couple of days. But my conclusion after all of this soul searching was, and maybe this sounds arrogant, but, you're not wrong, Mitch. It works for you. Quit trying to figure out how to change it. How do you know anything you change is going to make it worse? It's working. It's working. And until it stops working, until I start gaining weight tremendously, until I stop recovering from my stroke and everything else, why would I want to change? And that's the smartest thing I can ask myself. And the answer is, I don't see a reason. I don't see a reason. Why? Well, there you go. There you go. I hope I didn't chase you all away. There's 108 of you here. I just consumed too much nonsense over the weekend. Read too many of your questions. Heard you tell about you went to the doctor and the doctor told you to eat a low-fat vegan diet. I can't stop any of that. There's nothing I can do. It's frustrating. And they keep pounding into you. If you're a carnivore, make sure 70% of your intake comes from animal products. And then decide just how harmful the other 30% of what you're eating is. And if you're addicted, if you have a big weight problem and you want to lose weight, everything factors into it. There's no one answer for everybody. And nobody's going to be able to tell you what to do. Not in the chat. You can maybe make a suggestion, but nobody can give you a prescription custom designed for you and every atom in your body on a YouTube chat. Not Ken Berry, nobody, not even a doctor. Do the best you can. Do the best you can. It's too complicated. We know so little about it, even with everything we already know. John Beatty was the first one in. Hey, let me get to it here. It's only 7:30. Oh, Mitch, you can waste half an hour with the best of them, can't you? Yes, I can. Okay. John Beatty, first one in yesterday. Proud American was here, and Nikki W. Hi, Nikki, how you doing? Oh, let me do this. Let me do this because I'll forget. And I haven't read the chat, and I'm sure maybe Peter reminded me already. And it's working so well. There's my Buy Me a Coffee link. Thank you. Some things never change, folks. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. And my personality, my goals, and my needs haven't changed one bit. And I'm still carnivore as hell. I'm still back to the basic diet. I'm still doing the creatine and the leucine, but I'm doing that for a particular reason. I'm doing that more like a prescription for sarcopenia caused by the stroke inactivity. And that's different than what I consider my metabolic needs, which haven't changed. So I'm still doing exactly the same thing I've been doing for the past 3 years that have worked so well for me. And if you think about Mitch, just think to yourself, there's a guy that at least maybe wavers a little bit, but is true to his beliefs. And the minute I believe something else to be an absolute fact, then not only will I change, but I will let everybody in on it. Because I'm not going to ever do one thing and say another. That is the definition of hypocrisy. And have you ever wondered why the word hypocrisy and the Hippocratic oath that doctors take, those words are so similar? Inquiring minds want to know. Jeb, good morning to you out there in California. This is yesterday, and you're checking in. Lady June checked in, and Rick checked in, and Loretta, and at 6:59 a.m. this morning, Anthony said here, and Rick checked in. Larry Ryan. Larry Ryan is the winner this morning at 7 a.m. and followed immediately by Lambs, Don Shanger, and Robbie Autry. That's getting to be a real horse race, guys. Brian Dishworthy, Prince, how you doing? And CB Carmack, good morning, CB. Brenda, how are you? I'm going to try to run through this. Jerry in the middle of the forest. How's the forest, Jerry? And Rick won a t-shirt. Papa Carnivore Peters here. How you doing? So let's get through this. B. Matt, how you doing? Cleveland, Carnivore, and who did I miss? Sharon McCabe, good morning, Sharon. I don't know if all you are still here, because that was a half hour ago or so. But I'm going to try to catch up now. Any questions you got or comments? Put them in the chat. But I just spent a half an hour basically telling you why not to ask so many questions that are only going to screw you up. So maybe I'm committing YouTube suicide here. But if I get nothing else across, is I was lost, now I'm found. Why would I want to get lost again? I want to stay on the path that took me a lifetime to discover and ride it out to the very end, which will inevitably come in some way impossible for us to know or predict. But I am going to stay true to what have become my convictions unless some real, believable, common sense evidence comes along. And I got to tell you, wherever that might be, it's going to take an act of Congress to get me to believe it after all of this. And that's the best we can do, is stay true to our convictions. And so few of us do that, especially in this space. And I'm going to keep making air fryer videos, because that seems to be what I do on YouTube that actually is the most meaningful to people, is to focus less on the science and more on the execution of this lifestyle that I've chosen as appropriate, how to execute it efficiently, cheaply, and make the food taste good. So even though that seems a little trivial in importance, it may be the most important thing that I'm contributing to this space. It might be, plus a little, hopefully, entertainment and a rant now and then. But I'm going to, as tough as it is to figure out new and exciting ways to cook ground beef, I think that may be more help. Maybe the one area that I can contribute. I'd love to think it was because of my intelligence, but I'll have to maybe make you stick with me because at least I'm a man of my convictions, if nothing else. Sharon McCabe, how you doing? And Matthew Tremblay, how you doing? Aaron is here. Steve Rogers, Captain America's with us at 7:02. And Patty's Garden says, morning, Mitch. And who else chimed in? Terry Sue, good morning to you. King Neptune. King Neptune, how are you? You eat fish? Karen P., Florida Sunshine, question. What do you think about Dr. Kiltz's new diet? Lewis, I already told you. I've got so much respect for Kiltzy. And I would certainly never criticize him in any way. Anything he does, I truly understand his thinking. And I don't think that Kiltz is telling you to ditch beef and eat fish. But I'm afraid that a lot of people may get that impression because people don't think like Kiltz thinks. Kiltz thinks, like I think, that any changes you make in your diet is going to take decades before you could absolutely know for sure the effect of it. That's the truth. Kiltz got Annette Bosworth, Phil Bavadia, kind of bending his ear a little. And there are many, many carnivores who, and maybe they're absolutely right, who think a Mediterranean diet of 70% more or more of animal products, which include fish, are actually better. And these people are always using the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of fats. Push cod liver oil, salmon, fatty fishes. And then some of them, you dig up the old book that talks about eat to your blood type. People of Mediterranean descent are usually type A. People whose roots are more closely tied or more recently tied to Africa, which when you think about it, think about where the Mediterranean is, think about where Africa is. They're not too far away from each other. Not too far away from each other. The Mediterranean, the whole Mediterranean region, which basically includes Persia. It includes all the Arab countries. They sit right at the top of Africa. They are almost African countries. We call them Mediterranean because we wrap around, into Italy. But it's still the same, pretty close to the same area. And you got to think that it wasn't, that in the northern part of Africa, did they really eat that much fish? Unless they were right up close to the Mediterranean. So I think when they talk about Mediterranean diet, they're talking about the people that wrap around the Mediterranean Sea, and the people, most of them, including my relatives and my ancestors, will have type A blood, and I have type A negative. They say those people should eat a Mediterranean diet. But that includes a lot of plants, a lot of olives, like Greeks, a lot of olives, they eat a lot of dairy, they eat a lot of cheese, they eat a lot of fish. Okay. Type O are the hunters who should be, chasing cats, dogs, and mice, killing them with their bare hands and eating them raw with their teeth. They say that's best. That's been debunked a number of ways, but who knows? Again, anybody can have an opinion on anything, and they can bring up propaganda to support their opinion to try to convince you, usually to sell you something. What's the truth? Okay, so Kiltz is Italian, and he's obviously concerned about the blood test, which is why I say don't get the stupid blood test, because you're probably on the right track now. The damage has been done over all those decades of poisoning yourself, and now you have no way of knowing if you're changing the actual course of the damage, but you're going to change everything that's working now because you listen to somebody else, they put some doubt in your head, or it's something you really want to do. Lewis, maybe Kelsey just loves fish, but because of his YouTube channel and the carnivore diet and everything, he's not eating it. Maybe this to him, I don't know. I respect anything he wants to do. But I don't think it's Kiltz's new diet. That's the point. He's not abandoning carnivore. The only thing that I can't figure out is how is he going to know if this makes any difference? He already feels great. He already has all the energy he needs. His brain already works. He was doing great, even though I'm not an advocate of raw everything. I've made a concession, basically because of him, to where I now eat my beef much more rare, but that's as far as I'm going to go. I still want to cook my food. I like cooked food, and I'm going to keep cooking my food. I don't think the difference at this point in my life is going to mean much, and I'm not willing to give up the enjoyment and the taste of well-cooked food, and that not well done, but well cooked, so it tastes good. I'm going to continue to do that. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to give him advice. I haven't called him up and said, hey, Kelsey, stop eating fish. Because what's right for me might certainly be wrong for him. But I'm curious to see where he goes with this. I don't think Nelson's changed his diet all that much. But I respect the man. And if he wants to experiment for a month or two to see what happens, to see if he does see any change, any diminishment in his energy, his mental clarity, by switching from beef to fish, who cares? It's still animal product, it's still carnivore, it's still meat, and so many of our ancestors, in fact, if you look at the course of migrations of humans across the world over the eons, you'll find that they always migrated along the coast. They always migrated along the coast, and the reason they migrated along the coast was because there was food in the sea. And they fished. And the majority of them existed primarily on seafood. So that's certainly evolutionarily appropriate. So it's a good question, Lewis. Right now I'm looking at it and just Kiltz's doing an experiment. Believe me, the man has not changed any of his core beliefs. But he is, as everybody is, when you get the news from the doctor, you always got that, it creates, which is why I say to you, maybe sometimes when you get to a certain age in life, it's better to stop the tests. You've already set your course. Your ship's chugging along in the right direction. Don't rock the boat. Boy, was that ever a cliche-filled sentence if I ever heard one. I've decided not to rock my boat anymore. Kiltz is 10 years younger than me. Maybe he can stand up in the rowboat, lean one way or the other, see what happens. But I certainly haven't lost any respect for the man, his message, or his intelligence. Hope that answers your question. I'm glad you asked, Louis. Thank you. Thank you for that. Marla Kelly's here. Okay. Peter answered Lewis's question. Lewis, he's just having more variety, and I think he's worried about his... Yeah, okay. That's what I just said. Josephine C. is here. And Peter's welcoming everybody. Attaboy, Peter. King Neptune says, did you smoke? No. Never smoked. I puffed. I didn't smoke, I puffed. That's such a loaded question. It's such a loaded question. That's like asking somebody, who walks by a bakery every day and smells the wonderful aroma of all the baked goods, if they consume a lot of baked goods, well, they would have to say no. Well, that's kind of what the difference between cigar smoking and cigarette smoking is. Cigar smoking, as far as I'm concerned, is like walking by the bakery and smelling the bread. Cigarette smoking is inhaling the bread. So when people ask if I smoke, I say, no, I'm a non-smoker. I'm a puffer. Now, in the medical community, that doesn't mean shit because they don't know anything. They don't stop to think about anything. They don't think about the fact that I don't draw any, other than maybe a little secondhand smoke, into my lungs. And who among us doesn't draw pollution into our lungs every day with every breath that we take? Especially people who live in a big city. So I'm sticking to that fact that I am a non-smoker. I'm a cigar puffer. And if the cigar happens, when you go out camping, you go out in the woods and you go out camping, okay? You go out camping and you light a big campfire like they always do at night, and everybody sits around the campfire. And the wind blows smoke in your face because that's what wind does. And you kind of keep moving to try to get away from the smoke, but you can't. There's smoke coming from the campfire. You are breathing some secondhand smoke. And somebody comes up to you and says, are you a smoker? Are you going to say yes? How about if your job is being a fireman and every day you run into buildings full of smoke and somebody says, are you a smoker? Are you going to say yes? No, you're not a smoker. And I am not a smoker. I have smoked the sum total of one cigarette in my life, inhaled one lungful of cigarette smoke at 11 years old, coughed my lungs up, and never inhaled another drop of smoke on purpose since, except the one time I let some guy talk me into trying a marijuana, and that almost killed me too. So no, I'm not a smoker. I keep railing about that. I'm a puffer. I'm a cigar puffer, and it's the most relaxing, I think, healthy thing that I can do, especially with all the other things I try to do to stay healthy. Jeff Stuffside, good morning to you, Jeff. We made it all up to 7:12. Wow, I have gotten behind. It's almost time to quit. But I'm not going to quit. I'm going to stick around. Rick wants me to know if I can help him with his duck and iguana cravings. Well, number one, Rick, it's impossible to have cravings for meat. I'm sorry. You might like the meat, but you don't have cravings. You don't Jones for it. It doesn't work that way. It does have, they don't give you that neurotransmitter rush like the sugars do. Robbie Autry, Mitch, have you heard of that carnivore supplement? It sounds like they are taking advantage of the word carnivore to get people to try it. And I go, no, everybody's got an angle, Jeff. Everybody's got an angle. Everybody's got. Oh, look at the way they have totally bastardized the word keto. Look at the marketing. Go to Sam's Club or Costco in the aisles and look at all the boxes of absolute garbage poison with the big words keto stamped all over them. Brian Dish, as a question just came in right now. Question, what are your thoughts on fat being needed on a carnivore way of eating? My thoughts are, that is the carnivore, Brian. That is a carnivore way of eating. If you don't get 70%, or at least 60, 70% of your energy from fat every day, you're not a carnivore. That's what it means. So my thoughts are, of course, that's what it means to be a carnivore. There's only 3 basic macros in food: fat, protein, and carbohydrate. All food is made up of a combination of those 3 things from an energy standpoint: fat, protein, and carbohydrate. The problem with the current dietary recommendations are that they demonize the fat, and that was the cause of the problem. Fat is a necessary, essential part of any animal's diet. If he's a carnivore animal, if he's a herbivore, different story, because he still needs the fat. A cow still needs fat in his diet, but he doesn't eat fat. He's got a factory that makes fat by fermenting carbohydrates and producing free fatty acids. That's what happens in a cow's hindgut, and that's the job of the bacteria. Without the microbiome in a cow couldn't live on grass. That's an example of a symbiotic, what did you say now? Looking at the history of meat, leanness, fattening only started in the... No, you can't, Brian, stop it. Stop thinking along those lines. Stop reading that bullshit. That is some vegan propaganda somewhere. All meat contains fat. Even lean meat contains fat. Eggs contain fat. Dairy contains fat. Fish contains fat. All animal products have fat. Even the leanest, even turkey has fat on it. So no. Stop don't overcomplicate it. Don't fall for that nonsense. Get 70% or so of your diet every day. And I don't even want to use the word calories because that is such a fraud. The use of the word calories is meaningless. So get 70% of your nutrition. And unfortunately, calories is the only way we have. We think we're actually measuring energy, but we're not even close. But get 70% of your diet from fat measured in calories, or better yet, 50% measured in weight. Because weight is the only accurate way to know what you're eating. Weight. Calories don't weigh anything. Calories are photons. That's one area where Bart K and I agree completely. Get 50% of the weight of the food you eat from fat, and the rest from protein. And try to limit the carbs to almost as close to zero as you can, and you'll be fine. And that's what you need, because that's what you'd get if you ate like any animal in the wild who's a carnivore, carnivorous animal, and doesn't have the machinery to make fat out of grass. That's a simple answer to that. So we'll leave it at that. Don't let anybody try to talk you out of the fact that you shouldn't be eating fat. Like 99% of the people on this planet who are so brainwashed, they have no idea what's going on. Boy, Peter, you're prolific today. Peter says, Nia just posted a great video after being off YouTube for 4 months. She's now doing meat-based. She added back in some other foods, but she's still technically carnivore. More confusion, Peter. More confusion. How are we supposed to know what to do when the carnivore influencers that we used to follow and we believed can't figure out what they're supposed to do anymore? Are we doing anybody any good? I'm trying to be consistent and keep it simple, not overcomplicate it, make it a no-brainer so that you don't have to live carnivore. You can just be a carnivore and live life without every one of your waking thoughts being about what you stuff in your face. Why bother? Why having the most precisely maintained and clean and shiny car where the tire pressure is absolutely perfect to 1/10 of a PSI, where the interior is meticulous and there's absolutely no wear on any of the seats or the carpets? Why spend every day, all day, maintaining that car when you got nowhere to go? You don't go anywhere. You never drive it. That's what we're doing. We're so busy worrying about every molecule in our body and how it's reacting with every other molecule and the effects of the stuff we stuff in our mouth. We're spending so much of our time being anally focused on maintaining it that we never drive it. We never live. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere. And that's the thing that hit me this weekend. And that's why it's dangerous for me to take a day off. Because I can't, my mind never takes a vacation, unfortunately. I see a lot of people. Mitch is right. We don't know what really works, says Rick. No, we really don't. We know what seems natural for us, and I think the best thing to do is the only thing you need to try to figure out. And I asked this question a couple times on a live stream when somebody would ask me about whether I should eat this or that, the other thing. Or I'm not. Oh, I remember it was Amy's question. She says, "I've been carnivore for so many, I've gained 20 pounds." And my best way of diagnosing it is to say, well, you have to analyze your instincts. If you didn't have a conscious mind and you couldn't think in words, you'd have to analyze feelings. and emotions, because that's how the brain communicates with animals to get them to eat what they're supposed to eat. Doesn't tell them in words, eat steak with this fat ratio. No. Gives them a feeling. So if you can look at your feelings and shut your head off. I asked her, are you satisfied? Or do you feel deprived? Her answer was, I said, what about keto? I said, we're talking. She said, I felt deprived. Well, obviously, there was something that needed to be changed then. Because if everything is working right, you won't feel deprived. You won't feel sorry for yourself when you see somebody else eating a pizza, which you used to would kill for, but now you don't eat anymore. When you get to the point where you don't give a shit about pizza, you know you're doing the right thing. Nobody had to tell you. You don't even know why. So that's what we need to do, I think, is to examine how we feel and whether we're content with the diet that we're on in the food department. And that's the one thing I can say for sure. I don't think about it. I don't care about it. I'm content. Well, that's the only proof I need that I'm not malnourished in some way or other. And if you get to that point, man, don't change a thing. Don't change a thing unless you start to feel unhappy and deprived. Those are the things we have to learn. We have to learn to recognize our body's cues above the conscious mind's noise of us trying to outsmart nature, which we can't do. Which we can't do. So I'll talk about Rick and Milton. Let's get through that. No, Peter's counting his date. If you've got questions for Mitch, put a QQ in front of him. Peter's talking about his date. And 7:44, we're catching up a little bit. Hey, I'm trying to catch up. We have somebody in here named Crypto Gold who says fear brings change. Obviously a troll. These crypto people I'm not going to try to get rid of them, but Peter, if you see anybody that I don't know, maybe he was talking about, maybe he's not a troll, maybe he was commenting on my discussion of kilts and why maybe he changed. So don't do away with him. Mitch Slowick says, help, I can go 2 weeks and I crack and eat a half a gallon of ice cream. Well, you're not listening to me. You are not following my advice. I was the same way, had the same problem. We can only suffer so long. That's why all diets fail. People can only suffer, but they won't do it for a lifetime. Your cravings, your sugar addiction is too strong. Here's what I told you. My 2 simple rules for how to succeed on carnivore. So simple. For the first 30 days, which obviously you never got out of, because if you don't make it more than 2 weeks without diving into a gallon of ice cream. Brother Mitch, and we have shares my name. For the first 30 days, throw away your scale. You're not losing weight. May even gain some weight the first 30 days. That's how it's been going for you anyway, so What's new? Throw away the scale. And if any of you haven't seen it, I have a playlist on my channel that says how to start carnivore. Watch them. Because that's what worked for me after a lifetime of failure. And that's the best I can do. I'll tell you how I did it. Throw away the scale. Stop thinking about weight. Think about one thing for the first 30 days. See how much you can eat. Now that isn't what you usually hear in a diet. I tell you, for the first 30 days, eat until you can't move. Eat until you can't stand the sight of food. Eat until you just can't eat another bite. And then the instant you start to get a craving or get hungry, start stuffing your face again. The caveat is, eat nothing but meat. Beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Eat carnivore. So the minute, after 2 weeks without ice cream, if you can't resist the thought of going to get some ice cream, you're not eating enough. And the instant I tell people to have hamburger patties and bacon already cooked in the fridge, the instant a craving, the instant the thought of ice cream comes into your mind, head for the fridge and start stuffing your face again. And don't just take a bite. I'm not talking about snacking here. I'm talking in the 10,000 calorie a day range if it's necessary. You cannot crave ice cream when you can't stand the sight of food. You need to keep yourself in that turbo satiated range. And within a couple of weeks, your physiology will change. Your subconscious will begin to learn that you were not going to die tomorrow if you don't get carbs today, and stop compelling you to binge on carbohydrates. And of course, we always turn to our carbohydrates of choice. That's the way you do it. That's the only way to do it as far as I'm concerned. It requires no willpower. The only willpower is, I will eat until I can't move. Interesting enough, after 30 days, I haven't heard from anybody that's actually gained any weight. And pretty soon, they just don't feel the need to eat that much. And if you don't feel the need to eat, don't eat. And you may not have to do it for 30 days. It may take a week before your brain gets the message you're not dying without ice cream. But right now, your brain thinks you're dying without ice cream. And it's going to do whatever it can. And usually it means taking over total control of your body and mind and taking you out to the supermarket to buy that ice cream and stuff it in your mouth. Hope I'd answered that question for you. It wasn't put QQQ in front of a question. I'm looking at these things, so I noticed it. Here's one. Brian Dish, what are your thoughts on fat being? I answered that one already. Fat is not just needed on a carnivore diet, but fat is a carnivore diet. That's what it is. People think that's what you eat. When you eat carnivore, you eat fat. You're eating fat. You're on a high-fat diet. The fact that there's only two other macros left, protein and carbs, means that whatever's left that isn't fat, you should probably have protein. That's why I call it a high-fat, moderate protein, no carbohydrate diet. That is carnivore. That's what every animal that eats carnivore, every carnivorous animal from a lion on down, eats pretty much that ratio of food. Most of their nutrition by weight comes from fat, the rest from protein, and a small amount from carbs. How many carbs does a lion really eat? You ever seen a lion munching on a bush? You ever see a lion eating an apple or berries? It could happen, but not if there's fresh kill around. Okay, 7:59. Yeah, I am getting through it. Good morning, Keto Simple. How are you? And Feral Grandma's here. I saw you on Bart Case live stream the other night. I made a comment about that already. I won't comment anymore on that. Yeah, everybody was commenting on my diatribe this morning. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Use common sense, Jem says. Know your own body. Yes. Stop going out of your way to get confused. Everybody's got a clickbaity title and a clickbaity thumbnail that promises you the answer to all of your problems. Just click here. And if they can hook you in, they usually lead you very far astray before the sales pitch comes in at the end. I don't think anybody bought me a coffee yet this morning. No, but I do have a package evidently coming today. So one of my viewers, who I'll talk about later, has sent me a little kitchen gadget gift. So I may have, probably go tomorrow, a little post office road trip to pick it up, to help me in my carnivore quest to make it just better and easier in the kitchen. All right, let's get down to this. Okay. All right, Peter appears to be the star of the show today. Thank you, Peter. You're keeping everything going. Evidently, I'm not. You're answering everybody's question again and commenting on everybody. Okay, that's great. So you guys don't need me anymore. So with that being said, I'm going to go away. Okay, and I think I'll take the rest of the day off and eat meat. And my friends, you feel free to do the same if you'd like. We'll see you tomorrow morning.